actually?
We're live.
Fantastic. So welcome everybody to the first general meeting of the NextGen Genealogy Network. My name is Jen Baldwin. I am one of the co-chairs of the organization. We're going to take a minute to introduce you to our panel of participants tonight. So I will actually let them do that individually so I don't mispronounce anything because I don't like to do that. So Barry, if you could start us off, please.
My name is Barry Klein, and I am the treasurer for NextGen.
Elise?
My name's Elise Dorflayer, and I'm just a member.
Not just a member. All of our members are important.
True.
Shannon?
Hi, I'm Shannon Combs-Bennett. I'm the Youth Education Chair.
And lastly, Josh.
I'm Josh Taylor. I'm the co-chair with Jen and with Cassie.
Very good. Thanks, everybody, for being with us tonight, and hopefully we have some people watching and participating from the YouTube side and from the Google Plus community. If you have something to comment or share on while we're in discussion this evening, please feel free to do so. Barry's going to be watching those networks for us so that we can integrate your comments into the conversation. We're going to start tonight with just a very brief look at what our business has been recently. Some of us have been involved in getting this organized and off the ground for several months now. In fact, almost a year, right, Josh? Almost a year. So we'll start with just a very brief look at our business. With a quick update from our membership levels. Our membership chair is Melanie. She's in California. She wasn't able to join us this evening. We currently have 27 registered members, and that's in addition to those who are, of course, members of the board or on any kind of committee. Membership is $15 annually for the organization. It's completely virtual, so hopefully we'll get some more members tonight. That would be great. We have sent a welcome message to all of those members with any exceptions if the email address bounced for whatever reason. So if you didn't get that, please connect with Melanie via our website or our Facebook community. We do have some plans to increase membership in the coming months. We're working on some enrollment programs with social media. We'll be, of course, at NGS and FGS and Jamboree handing out ribbons and talking to folks. So if you're planning on going to any of those conferences, please grab one of us. And then we are working on a badge of sorts for people to put on their blogs or their websites to kind of share the idea that they are members and to encourage their readers. From our publications committee, we're constantly in need of volunteers, so we're putting out a big giant call for writers. If you have any interest in writing for the blog or for our newsletter, please contact Cassie Nelson through, again, our social media channels. She is coordinating all of that for us. Barry, can you give us a quick rundown on financials, please?
We have, like you said, we have members right now that have joined and have paid their memberships. We have the bank account set up with PayPal to accept that. We've also received some donations, and a nice sizable one too. And the option for donating, if you want to do that in addition to your membership, you can do that from the website through PayPal. That makes it easy. And that's about it.
Great. Thanks. Shannon, can you give us a quick look at youth education?
Sure, we're starting youth hangouts. We've had our second one this month, and our third one is coming up on the third Wednesday of May, alternating third Wednesday afternoons, and then the next month will be the third Thursday evening. Hopefully that way more people can participate. Looking at adding information to the website, to the behind the membership wall, including handouts and activities and guides for anyone who has youth in their life who is interested in genealogy, how to keep them interested, how to get them going. That's about it.
Excellent. So I believe that's about all of our updates. The only thing I'd like to add is, and I might say this more than once tonight, we're really looking for a volunteer to help with social media and our website. Even if you can't take over the entire role of webmaster, we'd like to talk to you if you're interested, especially if you have experience in WordPress. We just have a lot to do and not a lot of time to do it in. So we're going to turn things over to Josh, who is just going to give us an overview of thoughts, a view of NextGen, if you will, and we'll just let him talk.
All right, so I will try and keep this very brief. I just wanted to take a few moments and first thank you for joining us. NextGen is something that came out of several different people sort of had the idea at the same time, as often happens online. And at NGS last year, I know I sort of sent out this thing via Twitter, and I was like, what about a youth society? And there's been lots of different youth societies or parts of youth societies. And Cassie Nelson and Jen Baldwin, and I know Elise, and a bunch of people sort of jumped right on board and said, yeah, I'd absolutely join. And then it was a question of, well, what is this? What are we going to do? And I think we very quickly decided as a group that it's hard to define youth, and perhaps we shouldn't even define it with an age range or a demographic, because the idea is that it's the next generation of genealogists. Family history is changing so rapidly, and it's such an exciting field to be in, from someone just discovering sort of their first leaf to someone who's building up their entire family tree or working as a professional. The NextGen Network is out there to connect and to really foster that bridge between what many of us know as traditional genealogy for those who are just entering into family history or looking for some connection and some way to find their voice in this very, very varied and exceptional field. So the NextGen Network is all about connecting genealogists between countries, and we don't think there's any such thing as a geographical border. We're one of the first societies that's ever been set up as purely a virtual organization. So we've never actually had a meeting, an organizational type meeting where we're in the same room together. We've been online. We've used Skype and Google Hangouts. We do have the proper things behind a society, so we're incorporated in the state of California. We'll work through a 501(c) status in the next year or so as our funds get larger and larger and warrant that. So we are, while we're a bona fide genealogical society, at the same time we're a virtual network, and we really want to be a resource to connect and to help you out there learn sort of what you can do in family history, whether we mentor, whether we provide ideas for youth. Most of us started family history when we were younger than we are now, and I know all of us wished we'd have had an organization like this. And so sort of my dream for NextGen is that result in discovering family history, it would have been the place that I would have found and the people who would have been smiling and said, this is family history, come and play.
Excellent. Still thanks. That's it? Yes?
That's it.
That's it. All right. And I'll piggyback on that a little bit. This is an exciting project for me, especially the virtual piece of it, I think. I mean, it's great that we're reaching out to all levels of genealogists, really reaching out to any age. I think the idea of bridging kind of the gap of kind of the senior population and those of us who might be a little bit younger, all of those efforts are substantial, but the virtual aspect of this is what I'm most excited about, I think, because I don't have a traditional genealogy society in my neighborhood. It's nice to be able to have this group of people. And it's great to know that conversations I have with Barry or with Elise or anybody else, I can have those conversations today and I can have them in 10 years because this lifelong pursuit of genealogy is going to keep us tied for a long time. So we're really making some substantial friendships. I think it's good. All right, that's my own little spiel. All right, so tonight's general focus for our meeting, we can kind of get into some of the more enjoyable aspects of tonight's plan, is just the role and place of NextGen within the genealogical community as a whole. So I'd like to start with just some basic questions and kind of just see where the conversation goes. Again, if you're out there and you're watching, please feel free to comment on our Google Plus page. Specifically in the community would be great. Barry is watching that. So we'll start, which is kind of an overreaching topic. What can we as an organization, a virtual organization, an organization that's developed specifically for a unique purpose, how can we benefit the genealogical community today? Where can we make an impact right now? And we'll open that to comments from the panel.
Ooh, that's a good one.
I'll start.
Thank you.
So the way that I look at it, I think our biggest priority is just being a welcoming, open place, plain and simple. Just a place where you can come and totally geek out and know, well, I mean, honestly, that's what we are, right?
Yeah.
We hunt dead people. Like, you know, we find joy in it. We love going to cemeteries and looking at old dusty books, and we find that a fun thing to do. And most people don't get that. So to be a place where people can come no matter their age, but especially for the younger set. And you're totally welcomed and valued and seen as someone who, you know, is doing this, and you're valuable in that sense. And so from there, then we can move into education and what can we do to bump each other up and make sure that, you know, we're all doing really great and that we're learning and growing and finding more and, you know, making our methods better. That's
It's
kind of how I see us.
it's kind of like being a comfortable, non-judgmental place where anyone is
Exactly.
welcome and we can help each other out, aid each other, teach each other, learn from each other, and continue to grow in the ways that we need to, and have fun while we're doing it. And people don't think we're weird here.
That's the important part.
Yeah, I don't know about that, Shannon. Actually, I think people still think I'm
Hey.
plenty weird.
I think one of the greatest areas that we can make an impact in is actually with our ideas and volunteering with some of the existing societies. Usually someone who's into genealogy and a volunteer, they are all over societies and they've helped in various aspects. So we're all going to wear multiple hats. But in our local societies, I mean, we have usually the technology background or the ideas, and we really need to be open and communicate and recognize that some things are going to be brand new for our organizations that are near and dear to our heart, but maybe let's prove the case in the NextGen network and then take that to our home-based societies and start that communication.
Yeah, and actually, I think it was Cassie said a couple of days ago, or maybe it was Josh, I don't remember. One of the two of them said something to the effect of being kind of the role model society for trying these new technologies and these new systems and these new processes and showing the rest of the community that it can work in some capacity.
And that's a hard thing to do. I mean, I'm involved with my local society, and okay, so I'm the youngest one there, or one of the few, one of about half a dozen about my age. But it's the reaching out and showing the people who have been researching for 30, 40. There was a member who's been researching for 50 years.
Wow.
And teaching them that, yes, we can help them and they can help us. And just because we're younger doesn't mean we're any different. We still have the same goals, the same needs. We want to preserve our family history and have fun with the journey as well.
Yeah, and I recently had a conversation with someone who was kind of stuck on the idea that if you're a new, or let me start over. If you're a young genealogist, you must be a new genealogist. And my argument to her was that those two things are not mutually exclusive. And, I mean, I started when I was 8 years old. I did my first family history interview. So at my age today, which I will not disclose, I am certainly not a new genealogist anymore. And Josh has a very similar story. I've heard his story about how he got started in traveling around the country with his grandparents and all that. So, the two are not mutually exclusive, and I think that that's one point that we really are going to we're going to come up against over and over and over again and have to convince people that just because I'm under 50 doesn't mean I'm new at this. I actually do recognize that there are best practices and methodologies to put into place.
And I think there's also so much that we can learn. I mean, yes. I still learn every day as a genealogist, and if anything, I mean, if we can sort of extract that knowledge from genealogists who will never be on Twitter, they'll never be on Facebook. Right. I mean, to them, doing genealogy is gathering at the local library a day a week, and that's what they do. And honestly, we have to be fine with that. We have to be accepting to that, because if genealogy to us might be sitting on Facebook and waiting for that latest group to post, I mean, that's the way it is. But we can learn so much from existing genealogists, and there's so many things we could do with the NextGen to really spotlight or highlight that connection. I mean, I just can't stress enough the importance that we keep an open mind with those who have sort of gone before and been over this path and learn as much as we can.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, there's one comment from the community side. Sandy Barnett said, having taught at a junior college, learning doesn't stop with age. Youngest graduate was 79.
There you go. Absolutely. I love that. So we've kind of gone to this this broad spectrum topic. So if we couldn't refocus a little bit and think about, what can we actually do and wake up tomorrow? What is something we can physically do to start supporting the mission of the organization? And if anybody needs a refresher on the mission, I have it here. I can read it.
Oh, go ahead, read it.
Okay, read it. I knew I copy and pasted this for a reason, right? So we are here to foster the next generation's interest in family history. We build connections between all generations, provide resources to promote the next generation's engagement in the genealogical community, and offer innovative virtual opportunities for development. Through communication and cooperation, we empower genealogists worldwide. That's a lot. We do a lot. I mean, really, those are some bold goals. So what can we do tomorrow to actually make some of that start to happen?
Nobody start.
Yeah.
Well, so with me being the youth chair, so I focus on the under 18 aspect of this society. So for me, it's continuing outreach programs to get kids who have that need, have that desire, make sure that they have the resources. Sometimes I struggle with how am I going to convince people to do this? Especially when I'm in my 30s and I have problems being taken seriously. But I think one of the things I would like to see, and I know it is creeping up, I have seen these little groups pop up, is maybe figure out ways to encourage more middle schools or high schools to have clubs.
And perhaps our teacher in the panel could address some of that. We just happen to have somebody who works with kids every day. Elise, what are your thoughts maybe on?
Well, I'm more on the elementary level, but I totally think that this could apply to high school and middle school age. But when I deal with second grade in California, family history is a second grade history standard, and that has to start somewhere. So, I feel like my role as a teacher is to teach kids the skills that they need to do genealogy. So part of that is, how do you analyze a primary document? How do you analyze a photo? What sort of information can you get from that? And really in making them understand that this is a story. All we're doing is we're telling stories. We're taking information from these sources and making a story. And then I make them go out and they have to do it. So I've made my first graders interview the oldest person in their home. If that's mom or dad, great. If it's an aunt, great. Doesn't matter who it is. It's just that they start getting these questions and they start getting curious. Because I figure that then what I'm doing is I'm planting a seed. And not every kid is going to take that and run with it, but there will always be one who will take it and run with it. It might not be today and it might not be tomorrow, but it's going to happen. So that's a huge, for me, my main goal is how can I get other teachers to see the value in this and realize that this society is a resource for that.
Now, talking about other teachers and resources, at one of the local middle schools, I went and spoke about a year ago to the journalism class because they were talking about social media and blogs, and they asked me to come in and talk about family history and blogging my family history. And majority of the kids in that class, they were 7th and 8th graders, just couldn't get enough. I mean, the hour came and went. And if that can happen in one school, I mean, 60, 70, 80 kids taking journalism classes, and we're just fascinated by what you could find and how you told the story and the research that went into it. Now, they were journalism kids, so that might be a little different. They like the story, but I can only imagine that there are more people out there that we haven't tapped into yet, that we haven't shown the way yet. And if we could just show them the way, I don't think we'll ever have a deficit of genealogists in the future.
I think another thing that we can do right now is, and I hesitate saying this, but we need to throw out the pedigree. when we talk about family history, and this is the way that we need to communicate about it, especially whether it's kids in elementary school, first grade, second grade, or journalism students. We need to approach family history as a story, as people, especially when you're trying to go into kids. I mean, we can go on and on about how demographics are shifting and things are changing, but a pedigree isn't possible for a schoolroom of children anymore. It's just not. A teacher's going to look at that and go, "Oh my goodness, I can't do this." So we really need to make sure. This is a parent-teacher conference waiting to happen, right?
Right.
So
you won't even get that far.
Well, I mean, that's what I focused on, was just telling stories.
Yeah, and that's something that NextGen can do, I think, is, right now we can start creating resources for that, and, telling as many people as we can, and even helping our teacher friends. Lisa's in a great position to do it in her local community. I mean, I have a couple of teacher friends, just how to approach the whole family history idea in your classroom.
Yeah, I actually, at NGS last year was the first time I was kind of introduced to that concept, and I'm pretty sure it was Kim Cotton who then credited someone else, and she said that whoever the instructor was literally took the pedigree chart and ripped it in half and made it that visual in front of the group of students, and I don't know what age they were, and kind of this essentially threw it out the window. Like, that's it. We're not here to do forms and charts. We're here to talk about your family, and those are two different things. Good. So I think we'll lead the discussion into an avenue that Josh kind of already hinted at, and I wanted to get into a little bit more tonight specifically, so I'm glad he segued for us. He mentioned at one point that we could certainly be a society that assists other more traditional societies and provide tools and resources to the traditional society organizations. So let's talk about that a little bit, and what can we envision happening in that arena? I know Barry's heavily involved in his local society, so I'll pick on him for a minute.
Yeah, it's I think some of it is what Shannon already hinted on a little bit, and it's just some of the age differences in the society, and getting technology. Just because I use a smartphone for a lot of my genealogy doesn't mean that I'm not, doing it the right way, because there's lots of ways to do it, and not being afraid to try something different. And there is just a comment from someone that's watching, actually, also Barbara Ann Perez. She wrote in, representing my society, I'm here to learn from your generation. I want to bridge the gap. And she's the president of the, I'm going to say this wrong, Temecula, Temecula Valley Genealogical Society. I'm sorry, Barbara, that I said that wrong. But it's bridging the gap. It's making everyone feel comfortable when they go into a society meeting. Because I know the first time I went into one, I was not. Because, again, I was one of the youngest ones in the room. And it's not that I didn't feel that I wasn't welcome, but I definitely felt I was different walking into that environment. So, of course, I got a lot of attention, so that was nice because everybody made sure to say hello, but I think that was mainly just because I was one of the younger people that walked in. So
if you were to go into into Fairfax, into a regular meeting at Fairfax, and say, hey, I think we should have more youth in our society, what could we do for you to help you convince the board or whoever you needed to convince that these are the things we need to start doing in order to get youth involved in our organization? What tools can we offer you?
Well,
go ahead, anybody.
For a second.
Yeah.
So next February, Barry, I will be speaking to the Fairfax Genealogical Society on how to incorporate youth activities into genealogy.
There you go. We've already provided our first tool.
I just found out
my program chair already covered that for me. Thank you.
I just got that email, so I thought I would throw that out for you.
Yeah. So it's something that we have been concerned about. We have a great conference that we do every year, and we just had it at the end of March, and we have about 300 people that show up. We get speakers that come from all over the place, but as I'm standing there looking at the group of people that have come, it's a Friday evening and it's a Saturday during the day, and there's only maybe a dozen, maybe 2 dozen people that out of that 300 that are near my age group. So that is something that I have brought up, and Shannon can. That's an example that we have started trying to do that. And I think in technology is more. I've asked that there be more technology talks, especially at the conference. I think that is something that younger generations are drawn to, and if societies shy away from offering discussions on current technology just because they're maybe not necessarily comfortable with it, then I think that does impact the potential membership base.
I know one of the organizations in the Denver area actually added a special series of talks just on technology. So it's aside from their regular meetings, and I think they have 20 or 25 people come on a regular basis, but those 20 or 25 people are specifically interested in that tool or that topic that they're discussing. So they're not forcing, for lack of better words, they're not forcing the topic onto their general attendance and at their general meetings, but they're offering it as an additional benefit.
Oh, exactly, and that's the point. It's not something that that it should take over from everything that the society is already doing, because the societies do a great number of things, but it should just be the option. There should be that, and that option being offered will attract people based on what their interests are. And if you're trying to get younger people interested in genealogy, I think a lot of that has to do with how do they use their favorite gadgets to do it, and a lot of them don't, not to plug Amex, but the commercial used to be "I never leave home without it," or something like that. Well, nowadays youngsters don't leave home without a piece of technology in their pocket, of some sort. So how can we make them attracted to it by using those pieces of technology that they already carry? And if something, and that'll pull them in that way and give them the in that we're trying to look for. And then hopefully other members of our society will go, hey, I have one of those too, and then they will join the conversation, and getting the two together is what will start the conversation between the different generations about how to use things.
Yeah.
I think from NextGen, we have, speaking of...
I lost your sound, Josh. Uh-oh. Josh is frozen from me. Anybody else?
Yeah, he's frozen on my end.
Everybody else is still moving. Okay, so I don't know what he was going to talk about, but hopefully he'll remember when he comes back.
Your educational programs, NextGen will handle that for you, and you can invite your members.
Unfortunately, Josh, you froze in the middle of whatever it was that you said. That was probably genius. So could you maybe repeat that?
I can absolutely repeat it. Man, it won't sound as good the second time.
Of course not.
So basically, the idea was that because we have the technology expertise sort of locked up in NextGen, NextGen could offer a monthly webinar series for Genealogical Society members that, say, Fairfax or Denver or Society in Florida or Iowa or wherever could have as one of their society meetings and invite their members to attend. And that way, they don't have to cover off the technology topic in their own education. It's sort of an add-on, a Me Too sort of thing that they can join, but it's something that NextGen offers the community.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
So now we just need a whole crew of volunteers to run that webinar series.
That's right. That's right.
Another plug for volunteers. So I know that a couple of us are on some time-sensitive issues tonight, so we'll just do kind of one more general conversation if that works for everybody, and then we'll call it an evening. So let's kind of talk about a little bit about where we should be focusing our energy on this idea of actually bridging the generations. How do we get the traditional genealogist, and I'm stereotyping, of course, but I'm trying not to, and the rest of us to actually meet in the middle and make that education happen on both ends. We have things we can teach them. They certainly have experiences and knowledge they can teach us. How do we make that conversation start?
Frankly, I think it comes down to building trust. You have to build a relationship and trust before somebody will I don't want to say respect you, but you know what I'm trying to say. Before someone will listen to you and be willing to learn from you, um, I think we need to build relationships within different communities so that we can have those bridges by either reaching out or asking them to join us.
Hmm. Come on, somebody else.
I can keep talking. I'm a chatterbox. Anybody else?
You know, I'm gonna say this. We can pick up the phone and
Yeah.
call. We can call another society leader and just say, you know, I'd really like to find a way for our members to meet your members.
Mhm.
Let's make it work.
Wait, these things make phone calls?
They do. They actually
What?
make phone calls.
Had no idea. Weird. No, actually, I mean, all kidding aside, I actually think that's a pretty decent idea. I mean, when was the last time that an organization reached out to the neighboring community organization on any level, whether it's virtual or, you know, face to face, and beyond partnering on, you know, bringing in a big speaker or something to that effect and doing a fundraiser together? When was the last time you just went to the neighboring community's genealogical society meeting? Just
Well, and even
because.
just recognizing that different societies have different people with different expertise. So there's always, a great way that you can share it. It's like someone's an expert in one thing and someone else is an expert in another thing, and if you put that together, you're going to be even better. There's no reason why that shouldn't be fostered and encouraged and respected, and that everyone's looked at as a valuable member with something to share. Did we lose everyone?
No, we're still here.
Okay. It went quiet for a moment. I got nervous.
You said excellent words. We were thinking.
Oh, good.
I know my local society has a relationship with the library in town, and that with a couple of different historical societies. Virginia has. I swear you can't go into the next town without either running into a historical or a genealogical society. I mean, you drive 10 minutes and you run into another one. But I know my local group is extremely small. We 20, maybe 30 members, and I think that's something I'm going to suggest to them to go outside of the county or even the tri-county area to build those bridges because I think getting the groundwork with societies and then maybe we can get them in here and maybe vice versa. That would be fantastic.
Hopefully you can hear me now, because I was
Yes,
just talking away and I had my mic on mute. Yep.
couldn't hear you at all.
Yeah. So let me try this again. Just a quick shout out to those who have commented on Facebook. I recognize your comments that you're not able to leave anything on the Google Plus page. I'm sorry about that. I don't know why that is. So just keep trying to put forth your thoughts, I guess, and we'll try to keep watching. I keep looking at the Facebook page, so that's why I keep turning away from the camera. So if everybody's still good, we can keep going in this vein if you like. I do think that there's a lot more that we can do, and certainly these national events bring up a lot of opportunity for us. So I guess kind of segueing into reaching out to other societies and the technology and everything that we've talked about, how do we connect on the ground at utilizing the national events? What are our best?
A couple things real quick first. There was a couple
Sure.
comments on the Google Plus side. Barbara M. Perez said again that she likes Josh's idea about the webinars to the societies that you were saying, that to do a kind of a monthly thing. She liked that idea. Russ did ask a question, Russ Worthington asks or comments about how about bridging, why not think about bridging the next generation and getting more into schools? And we all have experience in some form or another. What kind of programs do you think that we could offer actually to schools?
Yeah, actually, I like that question. So let's talk about that instead. I know internally the board has talked about everything from elementary schools all the way up to colleges and how we could integrate ourselves into those communities. So what do you guys got? Elise, you're a recent student.
Get ready. It's going to be a rant. Get ready. So at the level, there's so many history classes and psychology classes and sociology classes that can totally benefit from having the local genealogy society reach out and offer resources and suggestions. Some American history classes now on the college level are asking for family trees depending on the type of American history class, since on the college level that's really broken down a lot more. And as an elementary school teacher in California, I was actually required to take a class. I believe it was called Family, Community, and the Individual, and how it's changed over time. And so we really were required to do a family tree and talk about how has family changed over time. So we looked at a diary from about the 1700s, late 1700s, early 1800s, and about how a mother would call her daughter in her diary at a certain time, and then as soon as her daughter got married, how she would refer to her as something else, versus now we would never think to do that. At the high school level, I know that there are some amazing history teachers who are doing more reenactments, and there's no reason why a genealogy society can't support that with more factual information that's more localized. So especially in the South, you can focus on one particular battle that happened, and genealogists will know a lot about that because one of the not requirements, it's the wrong word, but one of the needs to do genealogy is that you understand the history of the area that you're researching in. And so we have that knowledge, and there's no reason why we can't share it. We have access to these records that are specific, and you can take, Civil War registration cards, not registration cards. Oh my goodness, help me out. It's been a long day at work. What's the word I'm looking for?
The draft cards? Is that what you're thinking of?
The index
cards. Thank you. Couldn't think of that word. You can take the draft cards, and you can assign each kid a person, and they have to take on that role. And a lot of these pension records have full letters that describe their family and what they went through, and you can totally have someone take over that identity, and it sparks that love of history, which is very much connected to genealogy. And the people wonder, well, do I have that in my family? Did someone in my family do that? And they start to want to look. And you can do that in the middle school level. On a smaller level, you have to be a little more careful because there's some PG-13 and R-rated things that happen in our genealogy, so you have to be a little more careful. But you could totally do that on an elementary level with fifth and sixth graders, depending on where you are in the country. That's elementary, and you can bring it on down to what was a community like 100 years ago versus now. Like with my first graders, we don't say 100 years ago because they don't have a concept of what 100 years ago was. We say long ago. So what was it like long ago? What was it like even longer ago? And you kind of can give them a sense of what life was like, and then they want to know, did that happen with my family? Was someone in my family living in a situation like that? And I think that's where the genealogy societies can reach out. You can reach out on district level, or just to a principal or vice principal, or even just posting on a lot of these education websites where teachers will be able to find you and reach out to you and know that you are willing to be a resource. I think that's the other big thing. You have to be willing to be a resource. And different schools have different requirements as to who can volunteer in a classroom. So you have to look into that and be willing to kind of go with the flow. Like in my district, you have to be fingerprinted. You have to have a TB test. And so there's a little bit of a cost, but it's so worth it. It's so worth it. It totally makes the kids more engaged. It gets them excited, and it gets them wanting to do it when they go home. And then their parents want to do it. So told you it was a rant. I warned you.
It's a good one.
I was just thinking off of Elisa's comment. NextGen all of our members could develop like a profile for all of our Civil War ancestors, take from the pension file, and actually just have that on our website. And it could be something we could guide teachers to, and there it's done. You know, it's a little lesson that's personalized, and I can't imagine too many of us would shy away from that because we love talking about our finds in our family. So
And
it would be a fun way to
actually,
share.
and it might not even be too difficult because so many of us already have those profiles developed on Fold3 or Ancestry or whatever other website you use. All of them, I think, now have a memorial page
Oh no.
feature, some key to transfer that. Is everything okay, Shannon?
You froze for a second.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Sorry. All right. I'm back. Anyway.
Sherry Hudson Pacey commented in the group that she said a group of high school students gets invited once a year in my area to help clear out abandoned cemeteries. This is headed up by someone who works for the county. So cemeteries are... What kid doesn't like wandering around a cemetery?
No kidding. Yeah.
And actually reaching out to counties like parks departments, parks and recreation departments would be another great thing, because then you don't have the certain restrictive requirements of school systems. I know around here we have to have a background check and fingerprinted, and it's like a 6-month process in our area to even be allowed to get into the classroom. So,
Oh my gosh.
yeah, but if you put something out like a community center or a Parks and Rec department that you would be willing to meet or get involved that way with like an after school program, they might have different requirements that aren't as costly.
It's interesting,
Well, there's
actually.
also the why too.
Yeah, the why.
Yeah, absolutely. And you guys are talking about all these school district requirements, and I'm kind of sitting here chuckling because I had a 5-minute conversation with my daughter's preschool teacher and told her I was a genealogist, and she immediately pulled me into the second grade teacher's classroom to introduce me. And the invitation was issued. I mean, within 5 minutes, there was no fingerprints or DNA swabs or anything.
It used to be easier when my oldest was in lower elementary. It was sign this waiver.
Right.
But over the last 5 years, it has gone to fingerprinting, background check. The sheriff department checks you out. So, I mean, it's just.
It hugely depends on the area you're in, though. Some areas are more restrictive than others. So, don't let these restrictions scare you off from asking. It can't hurt. And worst comes to worst, there's plenty of places and after-school programs that you can reach out to. So, even if that scares you, you can also always reach out to the teacher and say, hey, if you encourage your kids to go to this and offer them extra credit or whatever you want to do. And so then you don't have the restrictions, and you kind of get to do it on your term. But you're still involving the school in that. So.
Barry, just want to check in with you. Anything else on the community side at this point?
I think we're good. Sandy Barnett was talking about, I think this was going back to the Civil War comment with the pension files. So there's like shows like A&E, The True Spies, and Revolutionary War. Those are things, a lot more things that are on TV now. Kind of get that interest in history. A lot of the history shows that are on. There's one called Turn, I think, about the first American spy ring that's on right now. So there's a lot different than it used to be when you were watching something on the History Channel and it was kind of dry. They've actually make them into series now, which kind of helps spark that interest in history.
Excellent. So we've kind of already ventured into this territory a little bit briefly, but it leads me to the next question, which I think is probably what we'll finish with tonight. What kinds of special interest groups are needed within our organization? So very specific to the NextGen group. Where can we focus our efforts, and why should we focus our efforts in that area? So tonight we've talked a lot about outreach programs, and we've talked a lot about getting other people involved in genealogy. So maybe that's one of our special interest groups. But I don't necessarily see a need for us to have a German research special interest group, for example, unless it's lacking in our community overall. So what do you see as our needs in terms of special interest groups? Please. And I'd love to hear what the community is saying on this. So if you have any suggestions out there, please comment.
Well, I think there needs to be a social media special interest group, especially for people who may not feel confident in that area. It could cover subjects from, how to use it more effectively, how to teach other people to use it, what technology is out there. It could even focus on, as new forums and platforms come up, discussing those and how they might be used. So there's one for you.
I like that one, actually. I just did a session the other day on how to use social media in genealogy. There's a lot of people who had lots of questions afterwards. I think they would have taken advantage of something like that.
There always is.
I think we definitely could use a sort of professional, development, or can I make genealogy a profession special interest group for those who are really looking at this as a possible career.
I'm going to go on a limb and say something with publishing. How do you publish your genealogy? But publish is really not the right word, because I'm not talking about just the traditional book. I mean, that's one avenue, but I'm thinking things like blogs and videos and slideshows and things like that. So kind of publishing, because I can't think of a better word off the top of my head.
And I think that's another really good idea. Someone asked me the other day how I would display a family history timeline at a family reunion with a crowd of people who aren't really that interested in genealogy, and he seemed to think that the best way to get them to ask questions was to have the timeline spread out across the wall from Revolutionary War all the way to today, with historical facts inserted with the family facts. And how would I actually do that using technology? And then, of course, the printed version for those who don't want to look at the projector. So yeah, good thoughts. Barry, I'm curious if you have any suggestions on this one.
There was one from the community side. Kim Jordan mentions again just technology in general, apart from just social media, that there does need to be some sort of general technology special interest group. And I know that's something, our society has a tech SIG that's currently not moderated, so it's not actually meeting at the moment. So I think that's just another kind of example that sometimes it's hard to get people to fill those roles in local societies.
And I wonder, from our perspective, we're a virtual organization, so likely everybody that knows of our organization already is on social media, because that's where we've grown. So is the social media for Facebook group and the technology for Facebook group, I can't talk now, is that not enough? Do we need to supply our own version of those models that are already established?
This could be something that maybe could point back to what Josh was saying, that about having like a special monthly webinar or something, have a certain number of those a year set aside for technology or something, tech related, social media related, so that those do reach beyond, just us who are already pretty much here in some form or fashion, and go out to the actual societies.
Yeah. So Kim Cotton on Facebook is saying she has the special interest group idea of researching with small kids in tow, and I love that idea. I'm actually very lucky in that the courthouse I use most often, I'm pretty much the only one who ever researches there. And so the clerks have they know my daughter very well, they know her by name, we've gone to lunch, etc. And they actually have now a little basket of toys under the work table for my daughter, and she goes in and she makes this little cave out of their empty boxes and she plays with the toys, which is great. But unfortunately, not every courthouse is going to do that for me. So, I'm kind of spoiled up here, isolated in the mountains. So, I think, Kim, that's a great idea to be able to take her on research trips, and I know there are several other people who are interested in that as well. And how do you manage both of those things at the same time?
That is an upcoming youth hangout topic, by the way.
Oh, fantastic. Shannon, you're all over it. That's great. I figured
kids.
it would be.
I started out with the easy topics, things I have had to experience.
Right. So that's a really good one. I like that one. Kim Cotton, thanks for sharing with us tonight. Anything else coming in from the community at all? Barry, I just want to make sure they feel included. That's why I keep asking.
Nope, we're good.
Nothing good. Okay. I'm sure lots of good stuff, actually.
No, I said nope, we're good.
Oh, nope, we're good. Okay, good. I am just not on my game tonight at all. So we've got about 10 minutes left. I want to make sure that we have time to say thanks to everybody who joined in tonight, Elise and Shannon and Josh and Barry for supporting me while I struggled all afternoon to make sure this worked. And last question, let's just throw it out there. I want to know specifically from Elise, what is the best way to geek out in genealogy?
That's a fair question.
That's a great question.
There's not one best way.
Come on. What's everybody's best way to geek out in genealogy? Go.
Do you mean like how to share it, or do you mean?
You define it any way you want, but it's your terminology. You used it earlier in the hour, so I'm putting it back on you.
I'm gonna say long, happy dance-filled rants. I think that's how I'm gonna put it. So wherever you want to do that rant, in person or online, like when I'm alone, the first place I go is Facebook, and when I'm with my fiance, he unfortunately gets to deal with it and hear it and nod and act interested for the entirety of it, and he generally doesn't know what I'm talking about. That's okay. So that to me is my favorite way.
Shannon?
My favorite way is getting together with about 5 of my local friends. We're all relatively close in age, and we just sit down around someone's table and talk about our latest finds and how much fun it was and how we squealed at the National Archives or a library. Not that I've ever done that before.
Oh, no, of course not. No.
And, you know, no kids, no spouses, and get to talk genealogy and history and papers and show pictures and just totally geek out that way.
Barry?
Well, usually when I find something, you're the first to know. Usually comes in the form of a Facebook instant message or something. It's like, Jen, you gotta see this. So.
Yeah, I'll admit social media is mine too, actually, probably Twitter first and then Facebook messages to a select group of people. But beyond that, I think conferences are probably my favorite because I don't have those local folks. So, and my husband's kind of tired of all of this, although he has found a way to enjoy it, which is good. He's turning into a taphophile, but he doesn't know it yet. And so, yeah, probably conferences is my favorite in-person activity. Josh?
So my favorite way to geek out, which has happened lately, and I call it the public transportation geek out.
Yeah.
And it's because I have a long commute in the mornings, and so I'm sitting on the subway, and I have like my iPad open, and I'm doing research online. The latest collections come out, and whenever I find something, I literally turn to the person who's like, "This is so cool!" And this weird random person is like, "Who are you?" And they get up and leave. And also, I do it now on airplanes because of the go-go in-flight Wi-Fi. And I've noticed over the past 4 months, that's the way I geek out about it to some stranger in the seat next to me.
That's probably the best. I'm really glad that we waited to the end for you. Yeah. That's really good. It's a little piece of Josh we never knew before. So,
but everyone on the T in Boston knows about it. Like, I swear.
That's fantastic. So thanks once again, everybody, for chiming in tonight. Really appreciate the conversation and the dialogue. And for those of you watching on the other end, I hope that you will share this on your social media channels once the recording is available to you. And of course, we'll tell you when that happens. should be very soon. And I want to thank Barry again for helping me with the tech stuff tonight, so I didn't have to do all of that, so I could actually pay attention, which is nice. Any last closing comments or just a simple goodbye from everybody, and we'll call it a night.
Bye.
Bye. All right. All right.
Bye, everybody.
Meeting adjourned, and that's official. Good night, everybody. Thank you.